So if you've kept up to date with this channel, you know that I released my first single off my debut album called Unrest last Wednesday. And this project has been a very special project for me because it's the first time I'm releasing a large scale work, and it features a lot of stuff that I did independently. I mixed the music myself, I wrote all the music, I played guitar, I rehearsed with all the cats, all this stuff, and I'm releasing it independently without a label. And I think one cool thing about that is that I have the freedom to actually kind of do whatever I want with it, and I also have the freedom to share it with all of you. So I'm going to talk about some of the compositional elements of my song Unrest. And this song is actually the song that's playing in the background behind my speaking voice. There's also going to be a sort of music video coming out for this on Thursday, where you'll see the whole process of creating the album artwork done by my great friend John Arenas. So if you're interested in that, click the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and tune in on Thursday. I'm also thinking about doing some videos where I go over the mix for all the songs for the album. If that's something you're interested in, please leave that down in the comments. The whole album is going to be coming out October 20th. Click on the link in the description to pre-save it, or if it's past that time, you can actually just go check it out on all streaming platforms. All the links are going to be in the description regardless. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump right into this song. So, Unrest. This is a song that I wrote in 2020 around probably May or so. It was around the time when all the George Floyd protests were happening and all the other protests. And it was a really unsettling time. I sort of just wrote this to kind of display how I feel, and I wrote it as sort of a message of hope that, like, for all the unrest, there will eventually be rest. Which is also kind of pointing back to my first EP called Peace in Pieces, which has kind of a similar message. But anyway, this song could also be interpreted as all rest must eventually come to unrest, which is kind of an anxiety-inducing thing, so I mean, interpret it as you will. And aside from all like the artistic messages from this song, one thing that inspired me to write this was the great guitarist Charles Altura, who I saw at the 55 bar here in New York City around the summer of 2019, around when I first moved here. And I was like really impressed and kind of like encaptured by his use of open triads within his compositions. There's something about having just the triad and no seventh chords, no filler, that kind of like delivers this like direct message and allows for a certain kind of melodicism. It's hard to explain. But now let's jump into the music and how I arranged it. I wrote it all down on sheet music. I am that kind of musician that brings charts to his band and everyone just kind of reads off this. This is actually a one-page lead sheet, which I actually have a reason for, so I'll discuss that in the next few minutes. But now let's jump into the song. There's actually going to be a PDF to download this in the description, so check that out. And if you decide to learn the song, post it on social media, tag me, and I'll definitely share it and give you a shout out. So for this song, I was really just kind of thinking in phrases. And throughout writing this, I was thinking unrest, rest. Where in the rest part, I quite literally wrote some rest. And even when I was mixing, I even cut out some of the things that seemed like it was too much, or like some fills that I didn't like. I was like, no, I just wanted some space here. But let's look at the first two measures. So in the melody, we have a B natural, a D natural, a C sharp, and an F sharp. That can sort of be interpreted as a D major melody, but if you look at the chords, we start with an E major over G, and then we have a G over B, then a G flat over B flat. So we have this sort of parallel structure. If I take out the inversions, we have just E major, G, and then G flat. But adding in the chord inversions really help with that. And then finally it resolves to a D augmented triad. That's a moment of rest and unrest at the same time. It's like sort of the premonition of impending movement. It's like, oh, like we're at a place of rest, but is it really a place of rest, or is there something that's still gonna happen? Because the augmented triad kind of conveys that like unsettling nature. And this melody points to a D major chord, and it's that whole thing of like not giving the listener what they want to hear or what they expected. You know, kind of making a left turn when you're expecting to make a right. Then the next phrase is simply just G, B flat, A. And I already broke from that sort of like parallel major inversion theme. But we have a C minor over E flat, then a G minor, and then D minor over F. So we're still avoiding that D major because now it's a D minor, and then it goes to an F augmented. And another thing that you'll notice is the 6/4 bars in between the 4/4 bars. And I did that not to make things complicated because I like hard music, but really just because I felt the melody breathe a little better. And another reason is also the melodies within the harmonies, the little voice leading lines that I have. So for example, going from G minor to D minor over F, you notice that you have the half step melody resolution going down. Then we have actually the A in both the G and in D minor. So we have a common tone. We have that motion. And then we have like a stepwise bass line going down. And then it goes from D minor over F to F augmented. So it's the same exact thing, except the D now goes down to a C sharp. So I'm trying to create some nice inner moving parts. And to me, that's one part of the composition that makes it really cool. I'm really trying to think contrapuntally and think about the different melodies that are happening and the different melodies that we're weaving into each other. For example, if we just play the bass line, we have this. And then we have... which in my opinion can kind of stand alone as its own melody. So that's what I'm always striving for. So then after this chord, it's another sort of moment of resty unrest. We have D minor, then we have B flat over D, which is essentially the same thing, except now the A goes up to B flat. And then it goes to D minor, but I actually usually play D minor flat 6 and have the perfect fifth and the flat 6 at the same time to have this. Another moment of sort of unrestless rest. And then we finally have D flat. So the difference between D minor and D flat is the root and the fifth, but the third stays the same, and that's the melody note. So we have this perfect fifth moment going down, which Bach would be super upset at because you're not supposed to use parallel fifths, but I did anyway. And then it went down here to a B flat 5-9, which can be called like a sus2 chord or whatever. It's really just the root, fifth, and 9 chord. You can call it whatever you want. I really like this sound. And it's something that I actually come back to later in the piece. So generally I try to have ideas that are recurring, and even if it's a small thing like that. Like later in this tune I use a bunch of these, but I use just one for now to kind of foreshadow at that. Then the next chord is one that I'm particularly proud of. It goes from this B flat 5-9, so we have B flat, F, and we have C. And then it moves to A flat augmented. So actually the F is going to stay the same, B flat goes down a half step, and then the C goes up a half step. So it's A augmented, and then it goes to A over C sharp. So in reality, we have this sort of like F to E. We have the sharp 5 going down to the perfect fifth, but instead of resolving there, it resolves in the top voice, which is the melody. And also, it's sort of like the similar guitar shape, just because of the way that it's tuned and all that stuff and the way voicings work. And then we just simply go up a half step to B flat over D. So it's literally just, and then to D minor. So we get some sort of resolution. The beginning was implied like a D major thing. We finally end this first like part of the melody as a D minor. And to me, this is like a period right there. It's like the end of this sentence, or even like the end of a paragraph. And essentially, if you want to reduce it, you really just have like a 5-to-1 altered, but I just inserted some chords in between. When you go from B flat over D to D minor, you have the B flat going down to A. So it could actually be seen as a 6-5 suspension. Then on the next phrase, I finally do go to D major, but it's not really D major, it's a D major over F sharp. And then it resolves to an F sharp 5-9. So I have the 9th and the 5th going down a half step. And then to D flat over F. And the difference between F sharp 5-9 and D flat over F is that the top notes stay the same, but the root note goes down a half step. So again, I'm all looking at these like very specific kind of voice leading things that I want happening. So then you have that phrase. To me, that's kind of like the movie moment, like kind of like crying out for help. I don't know. And then the next moment is your moment of rest. After sort of like denying expectations, I was like, okay, cool, let's like get this one thing down, let's get this like nice resolution happening. And it was my attempt at having like this one moment of like lyrical melody that's like very straightforward. And although I didn't write that there in the chord change, you have an 8-5-9 chord because we have the B in the melody. Then we have this sort of walk-up thing where I wanted this melody. Again, it's like a D major sort of melody, and I wanted chords to go with that. And what I find sort of interesting about that is the chords are going down, so it goes from F sharp to E to D. That's going down in whole steps, but the root notes are going up. So we have F sharp minor, E over G sharp, and then D over A. And then it goes G flat over B flat. So the difference between D over A and G flat over B flat is that one note goes down and another one goes up. So again, we have this like split half step voice leading thing going on. And then I repeat the phrase because, you know, like repetition legitimizes. So then it goes, but then it goes B 5-9. So the only difference between G flat over B flat and B 5-9 is that the B flat goes up a half step to B natural. So I repeated it, but I changed it ever so slightly. I changed the resolution points and I added an extra bar of rest there. So the whole phrase there goes. And to me, that's like a page break. That's like the end of this first half. Now we're going to go into some different themes. This next theme, I basically stole from Ravel. Not exactly, because I mean, it's not the same notes, but it's like similar chords, similar order, and similar vibe. I really took the vibe of Ravel and sort of the key. The piece that I'm referencing is from his piece Gaspard de la Nuit. It's a solo piano thing. And it's from the second movement called Le Gibbet, which is a very beautiful piece of music. Definitely go check that out. But this one goes. So all I'm really doing is playing a fifth in the bass for these three chords. And you know, this sounds like kind of a rock song. So just imagine Ravel playing this on a piano. It's crazy. But anyway, we have the E flat 5-9. Then it goes to A flat, which is the sus4. So we have a E flat sus4 chord. Notice they're both very ambiguous. Then we have a B5-9, and then it goes to a D sharp, which is a third, giving us a B major triad for just one moment, and then we go to another 5-9 chord. What's interesting about these 5-9 chords is they don't have any inherent quality, meaning they're not major or minor. So for example, if I'm playing A flat 5-9 and I put it in a B natural, it's minor sound, but if I put it in a C natural, it sounds major now. That's because it doesn't have a third, and the third is usually what tells us if the chord is major or minor. So for this section, I decided to be kind of clearly ambiguous, and it resolves on that. So you don't know if this is a major or minor chord. You could probably assume that it's minor because we just came from a B natural chord, and a B over A flat is actually like a minor chord. But I could easily kind of make it major. So yeah. There's a few implications of what the quality is, but I intentionally left it kind of unclear. Then we have the same thing. And then I go back to the same melody note. But now I have a G minor chord, which is the same thing, but the root and fifth are down a half step. And then a G flat chord. So the thing goes down a half step again. So in the bass we have... And the melody just goes... It sustains. And to me, this ends like act 1 of the play or whatever. It's like the end of the first kind of section. Then finally we get to this bass line that I wrote. I put it in 5/4 because I wanted to rest at the beginning, but it's really like a 4/4 phrase. So there's your moment of rest, I guess. And then it goes into a moment of unrest. So this is kind of like the conflict point, the point at which it's like most tense. So you have this line, and then an E flat sus chord. Again, more ambiguous, but it still sounds a little dark. The way I'm voicing it is I have B flat, E flat, and I have an F natural. And then it goes to an A flat 7 sus. So I have the root, the perfect fourth, and the flat 7th here. And this is again more of that contrary motion stuff. So the melody's going going up in half step, and then in the bass it goes. So then we have. And then I go over to a G flat 5-9 chord. So I expanded in both directions. The G flat in the melody went up a whole step to A flat, and then the A flat in the root went down to G flat, another whole step. And then the middle voice stayed the same. So far we have. And then in the next one, it's another kind of thing where I have a bunch of different voice leadings. So we continue this whole step bass line thing going down. So for the 4 chords, we have B flat, A flat, and we have G flat and E. And then from G flat 5-9 to C over E, we actually have the D flat coming down a half step, and then we have the A flat going up a half step. It's an A natural. And actually, I just realized this isn't a C over E at all, actually. This is more like an A minor over E. Didn't realize that. Good thing it's on the record. Which actually makes the next chord make a lot more sense, because then we have a A over C chord. So we actually have a C sharp, and then the A stays the same, and then we have the E go up. Now the melody jumps up a fifth, so I'm thinking of this as like almost a different character because we have such a big range difference. And if you notice, all of my melodies so far are really close to each other, meaning there's never more than like a fourth between a melody note. So when you have this jump of a fifth, it seems like a change. It seems like a definite change. We have this A over C sharp, and then we have a G minor over D. And then we have these 2 chords here. I have a B major 7 over a D sharp. And then that goes to a B major 7 flat 6. Although now that I'm looking at it, I'm actually not playing a 7th. It's just a major flat 6. And And what really makes that a major flat 6 is that I have a perfect fifth up here and a flat 6 in the bottom, so you wouldn't necessarily call it a sharp 5. And then you have A flat major over C. And when we get to that chord, we have like 4 bars of rest, so it's this long kind of decay. On the record, you'll hear Alex Sipiagin, who's on trumpet. He's holding out that long note, and you hear the reverb of it. To me, that sounds super cool. It's like ultimate moment of rest. Then finally, this is like the last part of it. For this, I wrote like a B major thing with an F sharp in the melody. I'm actually just playing a perfect fifth on the recording. And then I go up to a 6. So I'm doing just double stops here. And then I go to a B flat minor. And again, we have this like descending fifth in the bass thing going on. And then to A major. And then finally we have our line. And then this descends into group improvisation in A. Now at some point I did have a solo section for this. I did write out a bunch of chords and all these like cued sections. I really hated it, and I felt like it didn't serve the tune, and it like the melody of this tune was something that I really liked, and all these little intricate movements that I just spent all this time going over. So to improvise over the chords, it's like throwing all of that away. It didn't make sense to go back to that, only to go forward. And I was unsure about it. But, you know, I think as a band leader, it makes sense to have faith in your band members and like trust that they're going to take your ideas and run with it and make it into something better. So I decided to do that. And I think it worked out great. I really like the arc of it, and I like the progression of it. I think if we were to just solo over the form, it would kind of ruin the whole compositional thing. You know, I don't feel like this is like a head solo head kind of tune. But yeah, that's the song. So now I'm going to play you a quick solo guitar rendition of this song for you. If you haven't already, check out the single. You can check it out in this YouTube video, or you can look it up on Spotify, any streaming platforms. It's out now. The whole album is going to be coming out October 20th. If you want to see more of these kind of analysis video, leave it in the comments. If this is past when the record came out and you want to hear analysis of another song, leave that in the comments. I could definitely talk about any of the songs on the record. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like and subscribe. And I really hope you've enjoyed this. Take care.